Welcome to Culture Under Fire with Marjorie Waldo, making a case for the arts. This is episode 1 of a brand new podcast that we're doing for art purposes of arts advocacy and making sure that everybody is aware of how beautiful the arts are and that they do way more than just give you a good time on a Friday night. This episode is titled Lighting the Match. We want to try to be able to answer in this the importance of the arts so you understand why we wanted to launch a podcast in the first place. I'm going to ask some people that I've invited to be with us, who I'll introduce in a second, to unpack the why behind the mic, the mission, the moment, and the movement that we feel is very timely and necessary right now to talk about because of so many changes in the world and in the United States, Florida. So let me not wait any longer and introduce some amazing people. First, to my right is Michelle Diaz.
Hello.
She is our Director of Theater Arts.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you talk about what you do in a second, but I'm going to introduce the other people first. And I'm talking about people. This podcast is powered by Arts Garage. So everybody with me today is working with me at Arts Garage. I've got Seth Weaver over here, who is our Director of Marketing. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Seth is also why we're organized, because he helped me figure this whole thing out. And then we have Naja Hardmon, who is our art curator at Arts Garage.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for getting up this morning to be here.
Look, sacrifices had to be made.
So I want to talk about you. I want you to share a little bit about yourselves, because often I'm sharing things about myself through our monthly newsletters at Arts Garage, but this podcast is a good way for me to share with the followers and the public the amazing people behind the scenes at Arts Garage. So I'm going to let you choose who goes first, but I'd really like you to tell me what you do in your job, how long you've been doing it at Arts Garage specifically, and how long you've been in the arts in your lives. So who wants to go first? Don't fight over it.
We can go in the order we were
Introduced. All right.
Yeah.
Ms. Diaz, it's on you.
Let's see. I've been at Arts Garage, I think, about 8 years now. And I started out to help create a curriculum for a summer camp. And that turned into teaching acting classes for adults. And then that turned into starting to bring in readings and shows and stuff. And then it turned into creating a season at Arts Garage. So I've kind of helped grow the theater programming there, which has been really amazing and just so rewarding and fun, and has sparked this side of my creativity that was lacking for a few years. So that was really, really great timing. And before I was at Arts Garage, I taught at FAU in the theater department. And before that, I lived in LA, where I was actually auditioning and actively trying to make a living as an
you were
in
making
LA.
a little bit of one. You've got some credits, right?
TV, yeah, I did a few commercials and TV. Not much film that's credited. I did like small sort of indie or student films, but what was really paying the bills was the commercial work and TV work. And
Sons of Anarchy. Look it up.
Sons of Anarchy.
Michelle Diaz in Sons of Anarchy. So all of this theater stuff that you've done at Arts Garage, I just want to tell you how meaningful it's been. I was a theater undergrad, theater major undergrad, and being able to have arts education in theater, the summer camp for kids who are mostly, that started 8 years ago, but it has run every summer since, this theater summer camp, some version of it. And building a theater season again with a really unusual, non-traditional look at really meaningful topics has been something hugely important to the development of Arts Garage in our community as an arts hub. So I'm really grateful. All right, we're going to come back to you, Miss Michelle.
All right.
Hang on. All right, Seth, you're next. According to Michelle, we're going in order of introductions.
Awesome. Well, I've been at Arts Garage for 3.5 years now, just over 3.5 years. And before that, I started my arts journey when I was like 4. And
I did not know that.
yeah, I started playing violin
Okay.
when I was 4 years old. Irish Celtic music, bluegrass.
Did your mother hate you?
She
Violin's
not as far
tough
as I
to
know.
listen.
Not as far as I know, but it was either that or drums. So I think she got
Preferred the violin. Yeah.
and just fell in love with the arts, and it's always been a huge part of my life. And then I moved to New York, and it became part of my career. And now at Arts Garage, it's art all day, every day. It's amazing.
And in your career in New York, you did a lot of things. You were a performer,
Yes.
jazz musician.
Mhm.
You were an agent for other musicians.
It was.
You did a lot of marketing for yourself and other musicians. You formed a band or more than one, maybe?
Too many to count.
Okay. Like Michelle formed a theater group with people
Yeah.
that she went to, I think, your master's program with or undergrad.
It was
And
World.
did a theater company in
Yeah.
New York. So
Amazing.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Naja, what you got? You're next.
Oh boy, how do I compare? I'm very fresh in my career. I've been at Arts Garage for about 3 years now. I am a self-taught curator, so I did not go to school necessarily with this plan in mind. It kind of fell into my lap. I come from a family of artists. My sister is a spoken word poet. My uncle is a professional artist. So I've grown up with the understanding that you can make a career in the arts. It might not be the easiest route, but it's still possible. So
You too are an artist. Don't sell yourself short.
I was gonna say so.
Okay,
When I
good,
picked up
good.
a camera at the young age of 11,
Okay.
it just made sense that I like to share my perspective. So it's always been something I'm not shy about, of just sharing different points of view. So as a photographer, I've been practicing professionally for about 3 years as well, and it's still a growing process, I would say, for sure. I'm always learning something new, especially just conversing with the artists that I meet. We kind of have an equal exchange with each new exhibition. I'm learning more as an artist and as a curator. They're inspiring me. I hope I'm inspiring them in some kind of way. So it's like a walking hand-in-hand experience here.
I think that's awesome. All right. So I am going to ask you each to talk to me about how you jumped the bridge from your own private careers prior to Arts Garage into Arts Garage. And I know that the nonprofit pay scale is not what feeds you. So I can only assume it's the passion for what we do. So talk a little bit about why Arts Garage is a fit for you, because you've each been with us for a while. So shake it up.
Well, I would say it's a fit because I'm definitely part of the experiential side of learning things about life. So with each new season, I think Arts Garage and just the Delray Beach area is a good testing ground for just meeting new audiences, gaining these new perspectives necessarily. It's like an interesting breeding ground for new beginnings. So I'm finding that a lot of things are around the corner that you may not really expect, and learning how to incorporate them into your daily routine or into your life. It's just an interesting breeding ground for new perspectives, especially in the art field.
It's really interesting because you started as a bartender, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
And as we evolved as an organization, we became aware of your artistic side and more aware of your gallery experience from Miami, I think. Or was
Yes.
it Broward?
Miami.
Miami. So as we became aware of that, we started as I asked you to be the part-time art curator.
Mhm.
And then we saw your creative genius and asked you to go full-time. And now we work you all the time. Talk about how you took what we had, which was the Marshall Family Foundation Gallery,
Mhm.
and what you recently added.
Oh, with the Black Box Gallery.
Yeah. Talk about that a
So,
little.
The Marshall Family Foundation Gallery, the infrastructure of it is based in the lobby area. And yes, it does specialize in exposure for a lot of new audiences for these artists. Many of them are emerging artists. A lot of them have never really had the chance to really challenge themselves to create a collection or really share their perspectives in a larger scale that a solo exhibition can provide. So I had been hearing just on the ground of from artists who had recommendations if they could expand their practice to anywhere, any place that could give them a chance for a solo show, any grants or anything that they could do to apply themselves, to challenge themselves in that kind of way. So we had this space in the Black Box. It was only used for the summer camps, or it was used for private events necessarily. So kind of just taking that idea of the Marshall Family Foundation Gallery of just creating something out of nothing. I figured that the Black Box would be like an excellent kind of avenue for people who maybe not want to jump all the way into the deep end, but who are curious about the deep end of really establishing themselves as professional artists.
And many of the people who are featured in the Black Box have had their own solo shows and have sold work more regularly than the more emerging artists in the main gallery.
Right.
So that's really cool. Okay, Michelle, why Arts Garage and what do you get from it?
Well, honestly, I had a perspective shift from the performance side of being a theater artist into the more sort of directorial side, the more creative side, as far as like what impact I can have when helping build something. And helping to create something that's never been done before or that I've been inspired by. It just kind of tapped into a part of me that was, I guess, disappointed by the performance side. Just disappointed.
It's a harsh
by the
business.
Totally
side.
understand.
Yeah. And just, the cutthroat sort of thing. And it just a part of the creativity that I was introduced to theater with was like slowly dying. And so I felt like when I started teaching, I felt it come alive again.
Right.
And I saw
I stole you from FAU.
Yeah.
I don't know if they realize that, but that's where I found you.
Yeah. So there's a connection that's made when you see the spark in somebody else, and it just kind of brings this, it's kind of a full circle moment where it kind of reminds you of why you started in the first place.
So funny because the beginnings of your Arts Garage work were in two polar opposite demographics.
Yeah.
Your adult acting classes, which really tailored themselves to retirees for the most part, which were daytime classes, and then your summer camp experience, which served kids as young as 6 and as old as 16 at one point.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really interesting because I think both of those populations can feed that need to see something magical happen.
Yeah. It's amazing how much in common they actually have, working with children, working with adults in arts. And I've seen it in other art forms that the curiosity and the spark is there at any age. If you're engaged enough in it and you're really challenging yourself in it, you can see that happen in kids who have never done it before, to adults who've never done it before, or maybe they have, but it's been, years since they've done it. And it's equally exciting no matter what the age is.
Right.
And I think that for me, it's just a place where I feel like you've given me the opportunity to just kind of soar in that regard and just be free in, what I bring in, but also who I teach and being able to bring that life experience and that joy that brought me to the theater in the first place.
It's cool because it's, I'm a master manipulator. I try to make sure that when I manipulate you into doing something that you grow from it so that you'll let me keep manipulating you. And it worked with you because with Naja too, actually, and with Seth. And I'll tell you why when we get to Seth. But you took the arts education piece and made something successful in a space where we had not been able to be successful with those. You built the theater program over time until we figured out a way to make it a season and something that would fit in a non-traditional space. It's not a typical theater space.
Right.
We're not vying for Carbonell Awards, which are the awards that actors, directors, and producers are trying to get in Florida that have very specific requirements. We're trying to make a difference in community.
Yeah.
We're trying to show something special. And now you've launched something called Out of the Black Box.
Yes.
Tell
That's
us.
very exciting. So I guess similar to what Naja did with the artists, it's basically a space where newer companies or artists who aren't necessarily in their own space and aren't producing their own work in the way that they want to, they get to sort of experiment and play in this space and put up performances when we're not already doing something in the main stage. So it would be like kind of off nights, off daytime sort of performances where they can just explore and experiment. And, you know, we can also invite our audiences to come in and be a part of their process, you know, and workshop and see what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And so we're hoping to build that to be like a different group each year.
I know. I think it's a great idea. And there are many, many theater companies now in particular that don't have, it's like visual artists who may not have a studio to work in or to display their art. Most art galleries require you to pay for the space on the wall to present your work. And I think for a lot of smaller theater companies, they face similar challenges that they don't have the real estate to do it their own way.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great way for us to partner with other organizations like that too.
Yeah. And it's very expensive, and it's only getting more and more expensive
Right.
to rent rehearsal space
Right.
and, you know, even to rent, to do a show for one night or one day. You know,
Right.
it's really hard.
All right, Seth, you're up.
Okay.
Why Arts Garage?
So preface with a very, very short story.
Okay.
Speaking of bands, I had recorded an album with my big band, 17-piece big band. Super excited about the release. We had
Were you the band leader?
It was,
Okay.
yes. And we had an album release planned for into March 2020.
Okay.
And at Birdland.
Perfect timing.
It was perfect.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And tours, we're going to Japan. It was this whole thing. And then tragically, of course, the pandemic hit. And, you know, fortunately, everything was okay. I didn't get sick or anything. But kind of derailed my whole trajectory of my career because I was like, everything had been leading up to this point. So it was a really, really big moment for me. And I was trying to pivot, figure out exactly what I wanted to do next. My wife got a dream job in West Palm Beach. So we ended up moving here. And the first thing I did was find the local arts institution, and Arts Garage was number one. And I came and saw a show, great jazz piano player. And it was during the pandemic still. So, you know, there were maybe 10 of us there, but it was just amazing. Shout out to Suzanne, who was like over the top nice. And I was like, this has to be somewhere where I'm involved with some capacity. And then after that, literally a miracle, the job opened up and I applied. And so, yeah.
And we've found a way to utilize your skill set in a much broader sense than just being the director of marketing. So if I'm looking at a jazz artist that I'm unsure of whether I think our audience, who are aficionados of the genre, would enjoy, I have Seth weigh in. If we're developing a fundraising campaign, his team isn't just preparing the marketing materials. They're looking at our needs as an organization and helping us find the best way to tell that story. So, or looking at this podcast, which was a new experience for me. And Seth and his team put together the calendar and tied thematically the episodes to what makes sense for us in terms of advocacy. I mean, it's just a really impressive thing. You've also gotten to play on our stage a couple of times.
I have, actually, with Dick Lowenthal's big band, which always picks wonderful music. And I love the Christmas show that he does every year. I think it's in January this year, but I'm sure it will still be amazing.
And you're not still playing the violin?
I am not playing the violin anymore. Although I did play it for my son's class a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Because it was instrument day or something.
Right.
So I brought that in.
So what do you play?
I actually play the trombone. So that was my instrument of choice. And brass instruments was my thing for many, many, many years.
Why?
My uncle had a trombone in his basement, and he lended it to me. And I found out that it was actually very similar to the violin. because there's no frets or buttons. It's a slide. You have to use your ears to find the pitch. And I found that was actually fairly easy for me to do. So one thing led to another, and
That's really cool.
yeah. So
It's a really, I think the arts are organic. And like if I think back to your journey, Naja, I mean, you did not have a formal path to becoming a curator in a gallery, right?
Yeah, no.
But you are so passionate that you found your way to it, and you've taught yourself or asked for help in learning all the pieces of what it takes to put together pretty amazing exhibits where I challenge anyone who can come for free to look at them to realize that those artists are emerging artists who've never had their own shows because they're so incredibly talented. You're sourcing that. You're curating that. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it was more so like a pivot because I did go to school for public relations, and I
Okay.
thought I was going to go into the music industry to be an A&R, or artist and repertoire. I've always liked being the background kind of source of finding talent and uplifting them. So I spent like all years of college kind of hanging around different music groups, local bands, local artists.
Isn't that interesting? I didn't know that. That's new.
Yeah, so I kind of found this as like a pivot. Instead of just music artists, it was just visual artists.
Yeah.
So I started getting into the visual arts field by doing PR for local galleries in Miami, and then just writing artist statements, bios, kind of just helping around, being around, seeing if there was any big of a difference between the music industry and the fine arts industry. And I noticed there was not really huge of a difference. So I kind of, when I did get this position, I was like, okay, I did kind of train for this a little bit. It's just a little less corporate, like in terms of like going to the music labels and the headquarters in New York, which I like more because it gives more of a grassroots feel in the sense of I can really be a part of their lives. I can really see how it impacts.
You can knock on my door and say, what about Off the Wall? Talk about Off the Wall, which is a new series you've pitched and sold to me.
Yeah.
Talking of manipulation. It goes both ways.
We play each other's games very well.
We do. We do.
So Off the Wall will be the new Artist Talk series. It will be another avenue for embracing the artists' voices, giving them another platform to kind of dig deeper into their practice. It'll give the community a chance to really see the artists in themselves because we do specialize in emerging artists. So Off the Wall will give a chance for the visuals that you see in the lobby to kind of come off of that platform and into a more relatable field just through speaking and talking and having a chance just to ask questions, hear some interesting answers, maybe add some more context to what you're seeing. Everybody likes a good story. So I think this will be
It's really cool.
really fun.
It's really cool. And we're going to make it free to the public. So
Yes.
it'll be easy to attend and grow from the experience, whether you're an aspiring or practicing artist or whether you're a community member who loves the arts, visual arts. So I'm excited about it. I think it'll be fun. That launches in
February.
February is the first one. There will be
Yes.
3
Yes.
in the high part of the season for South Florida. So that's cool. So one of the things that I think is important, because the episode is titled Lighting the Match, right? And we're supposed to talk about sort of the backside, behind the camera of the arts. And what I hear in each of your stories, and it's for sure true in mine, I just bailed. I didn't have the tenacity that you each had to find something. I went to education. I completely bailed from theater and the arts and said, I am not prepared to sacrifice what I'd need to sacrifice to make a living in this industry. I can't hear no from constant rejections in auditions. It wasn't strong enough. And I liked waiting tables in college, but I didn't want to do it when I was 30 or 40. So I bailed. You guys did not bail. You kept moving organically through your careers until you found something that feeds you, right? So, Michelle, you talked about, I think you started to talk about the dissatisfaction of the whole cutthroat nature of theater in LA, right?
Yeah.
And that you moved to Florida and close to family, better for your family, and began teaching. So I'm trying to get to what we need to know about artists. And I want to look at it from the place of theater, from the perspective of a theater person. What do our listeners need to know about the struggle for the artists who are doing the work that they benefit from? So I'm coming with music and I'm coming with visual arts. You can talk about it from your own perspective or from the perspective of people you've worked with. But I'd really like you to talk about, for just a minute, how you had the wherewithal to keep bouncing off of walls until you found a way to practice your craft in a way that fed you.
Yeah. Well, honestly, when I started in theater back in middle school and high school, it was just fun. It was like a way to have fun with friends, and we made each other laugh, and it was all fun and games. And then when I went and studied at New World in Miami, I was blessed to be there at a time where there was a lot of emphasis on creating your own work. And there was a lot of emphasis on nurturing the artist. And I really came to understand, what is really behind creating that community.
That's a great foundation.
Yeah.
And it must have made LA a slap in the face then.
Yeah. Well, then I after that, I moved to New York, and I was also blessed to see amazing, off Broadway stuff, underground stuff that was really inspiring, as well as, Broadway theater. But that was so unaffordable. It was speaking to a very select group of people. And any theater artist can tell you that that's what pays the bills. That's the end goal, but it's not necessarily what feeds them. And so there's always like that tug of war of, what should I do? Should I, make the money and sacrifice the art, or should I make the art and sacrifice paying the bills? And then when I went to grad school, I knew I wanted a grad degree because I knew eventually I did want to teach and I did want to be able to have stability. But I also got so much out of that program, and that was at UCSD. And there were only 10 of us. They only accept like 8 to 10 students per year. And it was also so personalized, and I really was able to grow in a different way. And then, yes, okay, now I have to just be this one particular stereotype that's going for the same audition, for every single TV
and for
show,
people who don't know, in the theater world, you are typecast. You are an ingenue. You are a character actor. Mm-hmm. You're a leading man or woman. You're one of those things. And so you find yourself pigeonholed in that, and it can make it very difficult, especially if you come from a foundation like you're describing, where it,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I was given this opportunity to bring in interesting work, I knew that people were already seeing stuff that was on Broadway on tour, or big musicals, things that were entertaining, but I felt like this area could really use a little bit of a boost in their kind of underground theater,
the way
language.
We look at theater, even.
Yeah, and because
it's like off Broadway mm-hmm. theater is what we do. Really, we push the envelope across the table. It's a really cool
and that's
thing.
What's exciting to me. So I'm able to bring that to.
Well, I'm glad you left LA. It has served us all very well at Arts Garage. Okay, so Seth, so go back to when you were talking about the pandemic hitting, and you had laid out in your head, and you're a very organized.
I try to be.
Overthinker.
I do.
I am an overthinker too, so I don't mean it as an insult.
Overthinking my response.
Yeah, okay, don't overthink your response. So go back to that pandemic moment where you realize you don't know how long it's going to last.
Yes.
You can't do what you thought you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide, or why didn't you stick it out and keep moving that way? What reordering in your brain did you do about what you wanted in your life?
Absolutely. And I'll build off what Michelle said, because being an artist is really, really, really tough. And I found that getting the feedback just on social media, like this record sucks or whatever, is so less harsh when it's not you personally they're talking about. There were a couple of reviews.
Absolutely.
There were a couple of reviews, I won't mention their names, that did not like my album. And they still stick with me. I can almost quote them verbatim. But just like being, being involved so heavily with being an artist for so long, the pandemic was just this like slap in the face. And I was just like, what am I going to do? Like this has been my whole life. I started playing professionally when I was in high school.
Wow.
So it was just a moment of like, just to sit back and think about where I wanted my life to go.
It was a forced pause.
It was a forced pause. And I'm actually very thankful that I was able to take a break, regardless of the horrible circumstances of that break. But it really helped me figure out what was important to me professionally and personally, and realizing that I could have it all. And my role now is just like I get to support other artists succeed, which is where I want to be. Seeing an artist grow their audience over the last 3.5 years, start with 40 seeds sold, and now they're selling over 100, has been so rewarding to me.
Well, and you're doing an extension of that with our community too. Mm-hmm. And it's a large community. It's not just Delray Beach. It's
Absolutely.
South Florida. And then there's a lot of tourism and people from other places, snowbirds, et cetera. You're watching sales of our products that you're impacting through the work your team does. And Seth is the only person. We say that theater is a department and visual arts is a department. It's a one-person department. It's not really a department. Seth is the only person that has this vibrant team of people working towards this common goal. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really cool. But you are an exceptional leader, and you're able to tie a lot of pieces of the organization together. So
thank you very much.
We're grateful. So Naja, why aren't you a photographer full time?
I don't think there's anything more terrifying for a parent to hear than I want to be an artist when I grow up. So my parents, they knew that I did like photography, but they strongly encouraged a plan B. And luckily, it just so happened to be that I like to write. And again, I did like music as well because I used to play also in a band. I used to play saxophone and clarinet. So they encouraged me to try out PR first. And then if I came back to photography, then maybe we could circle back into that conversation. And I was like, that's fair. That's fair. Eventually, it never really left me. I would say I graduated again in the pandemic. So there weren't a lot of options outside of working from home at that time. I was
all remote work.
Yes, all remote work. And I was forced to be in the house. And with that being said, that just fueled my delusion of being like, I can probably make space for other things that I can't even think of right now. So it kind of forced me to expand my ideas of capabilities of what I can and cannot do, not just limiting myself just to photography or just to the music industry, just kind of being curious about what is the arts, what is arts administration, what does it mean to really support the arts? What does it really mean to be in the background, in the foreground? So that kind of had me curious, and that's how I kind of found myself just offering free work and just kind of being in those rooms just to experiment and just to see what it means to give and take, not only as an artist, but also as somebody who supports the arts as well.
You know, I think I have an idea of what the last question is, but I'm going to change it. So you gotta run with me here. So what I see parallel between all three of you and many, many other people in different disciplines of the arts is how hard you've worked to find your way through to something that gives you what makes you happy. And I think that often the people who are sitting in audiences who come to gallery exhibits, I don't think they understand what artists go through to become successful as artists, as performing or visual artists, and how difficult a decision it can be to figure out that what you thought you were going for in LA or what you thought you were going to be doing with your life, or when your parents said, no, I think you better rethink that. You look at that and it can throw you completely, it's like a wave that takes you under and spins you around. You can't find your way through. I think what people on the other side of the stage don't realize is how little money you work for when you're an artist, how important every gig is, every show is, every gallery exhibit that you get that builds your resume. I think people don't get that. And I think some of the artists I know would think that what your evolutions were individually, they wouldn't want to do that themselves. But they're still struggling as artists. And they're unhappy as a result. And again, I won't name any names either, but I know some really unhappy people who I think feel that they're just treading water, because if you're in a program that trains you to be in theater, like your undergrad, graduate, all the work that you've done, it doesn't train you how to be a business person. Right. It doesn't train you how to prepare yourself for the marketing angle or the PR angle or any of those pieces. It doesn't tell you how to manage your QuickBooks and deduct your mileage and all the things that might help you edge a little closer. And I would like to think that, first of all, that something about this podcast series will help our audience see how difficult a journey it is and how important it is to have respect beyond the skill that's exhibited on the canvas or on the stage. That's something we're celebrating, obviously. But it's also really important, I think, to celebrate the grind that gets you to a spot where you can either create, develop, support, whatever your it's the same for me. I thought I'd be on the stage. I didn't think I'd be in the office doing what I do. But at the same time, I don't feel like I failed. I think I'm probably way better at what I do than I would have been, and way more successful at what I do than I would have been if I'd have been on the stage. I'd still be waiting tables, and I'm old. So talk about, if you can, what's similar in your journeys, which I didn't anticipate when I wrote what I thought the talking points were, is that you both, all three of you, have ended up in a spot you didn't think you'd be in. You thought you'd be doing something else. So what would you tell other artists in your discipline, theater, music, visual arts? What would you say to other artists about that journey that gives them hope, opens up doors? I hope we don't have another pandemic that forces a pause, but might allow them to take an intentional pause to consider other ways to feed their artistic side.
Well, the other obstacle is when we're dealing with theaters that are closing their doors and galleries that are going dark and all this stuff because of loss of funding and all of that also throws in a wrench, because the artist is basically trying to find work wherever they can. So if the work is not there to begin with, it's really hard. But regardless whether the work is there or not, it's about finding a way to keep yourself working and keep that creative muscle building, whether it's writing or hanging out with friends and deciding to, read a play together or record each other and do monologues, or even just anything to exercise the muscle, take a class, all of that. But also, I would say don't limit yourself to being in New York or LA. There are so many cities and towns that have theaters and that are looking to make their towns more interesting.
Right. Right.
And so be where you want to be and build a life around that.
Right. Right. Start with the end game and figure out how to make it happen.
It's not about being a small fish in
you don't have to be on Broadway. You don't have to be in a Netflix series to find your joy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
There are other ways to do it, assuming that we can keep the lights on
Right.
in all of our organizations, right?
Yes.
All right. So, Seth, what would you say to someone who was trying to figure it out?
Yeah. I think for me, I had a very rigid idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to play post-bop jazz in New York.
That's
So,
pretty specific.
very specific. And I think that being open to discovering other things is so important. And also, like you mentioned before, the business side of things. I think that's so important for artists to really develop that and learn about that. And my third point is that like you said, Michelle, you can be anywhere. Finding the people that are passionate about what you do has never been easier with social media and Spotify. And
Oh, that's a good
there
point.
are many,
Yeah.
many drawbacks on the way we've organized our lives now. But you could be anywhere and reach an audience anywhere and get the people that matter.
Yeah, it's a
to
good
you.
point.
So.
Yeah.
Naja, what would you say? Any advice to aspiring
advice?
artists or anything you'd want our listeners to know about the journey?
Yeah, because I'm very much still on that journey myself. But I would say, one, I get it. Two, something over nothing goes a long way. It doesn't have to be something for recognition. Your main job as an artist is to focus on your perspective. And I think you are in charge of that legacy. There's always going to be time to build on that, whether you get recognized for it immediately or not. That's not really what you're chasing here. I think what you're chasing is fulfillment. So be open to finding what that fulfillment is and be open to laying low if that needs to be and just letting it receive it when it's ready for you. Because the last thing you need to do is to be charged up with nowhere to go. So take time.
I think it's important for our listeners to understand the journey, its difficulty, and that there are lots of ways to get to your final destination that can really be fulfilling. Culture is something super important to all of us, whether you've chosen a career in the arts or not. So I hope that we at least lit a match that would make you want to listen again to the next episode. I hope you will follow the show on your favorite podcast platform, and that you will write a review on that platform so that other people will find out about us. If you have any feedback you'd like to give, questions, suggestions for topics for a podcast episode, or a potential guest for a future episode, we would love to hear from you at info@artsgarage.org. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Thank all three of you so much for joining me today. I'm really grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.